All right, what's up, everyone? BallietBran. We got a live stream today. Happy Friday to everyone with HexDeck 16. And yeah, we're going to have a good hangout and, kind of just talk all things crypto, Hex, PulseChain. There's always something going on in the Hex community. I know most recently Freddy Quotes and a lot of the Hexicans were, doing a music video and just a whole bunch of different things. And you got A-Bit Hex and, Patrick and Alan pretty much that are traveling all the states with the wrapped cars. And so we can kind of go into some of that as well. But let me do the intro and then we'll bring on HexDeck and then, yeah, kind of just do a little stream.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Yeah. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams, Mr. BallietBran.
Cool. So before I bring on HexDeck, let me just say what's up to the chat real quick. I know sometimes when, I've got other people on, it can, miss the comments and things like that. So what's up, Steve? We got Stefan Hex. Whoop, let's get it going. Let's see. HexDeck says, howdy from Montana. Let's see what else we got here. So we got Sweden. The cool thing about Hex is there's people all around the globe that are in Hex, and a lot of the people that were in it early happen to be retired now, thanks to just the continual passive income coming in, and like I said, all around the globe. I mean, we got Kenyan Hexicans and Hexicans from Africa, which is really cool too. Let's see. Brand needs more followers. He is a super nice guy. Post a stream on your social media. Yeah. One thing that Richard's talked about a lot, and same thing with A-Bit, Alan, is even if you're not streaming or anything like that, the least you can do is like the video, share it, things like this, because it's the outbound messaging that really spreads the word. And we all know with Hex that, it's such a abundant product that, when you teach people about it, they become just as blessed as well. So let's see, we got Ronaldo. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty much everyone. Alan. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Like I said, we might not get to all the comments in the chat, but let's see. Identity Block, I know he's doing live streams as well. So go support his channel. He's been on my channel a few times, but the next time we stream, it'll be on his channel. So shout out to him for doing that. And we got Dan Emmons. Let's see. I say every week, raise up at least one Hexican per week. Hell yeah, man. Let's see. David Morales. Okay, cool. Yeah, Finn Bear. Yeah, so anyways, we got a lot of people. Without further ado, let me bring on a HexDeck and, just get into the hangout. So let's do that. Hey, what's up, man? How we doing today?
What's up?
Not much, man. Another good day to be a Hexican. There's never a dull moment, I swear.
Nope, never boring. Did you see that recent post by Richard though? I got to bring it up first thing. I mean,
definitely. Tell me what's it about? I slept in a little bit this morning.
It's about the testnet logo.
Okay.
we're at days, not weeks at this point for the testnet.
Really?
Yeah, it was retweeted by somebody. I picked it up. I threw it up on Twitter. But we are close, folks. Exciting times.
Oh, okay.
Did
You're definitely right. Yeah, I see it now. Let me pull it up here. I mean,
yeah.
You know, there's so much news. I mean, even being like full time, Hexagon and stuff like that. It's crazy how there's just so much going on.
You got to monitor everything, right?
Yeah, no, I got
baby.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. I got like let's see, I got Richard. I got a lot of people on like the tweet notifications or YouTube notifications, and I swear, dude, my phone is like always just going off because Hex streamers or Richard Hard or
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
No, it's a fantastic problem to have.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Let me bring that up like you mentioned.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Let me read this real quick. Let me just zoom in here. So, updates for you guys. Let's see. Got the testnet snapshot archive ready. Shrunk to minimal size. Removed key store. Removed node key. This exact snapshot can be used for bootstrapping the testnet archive node volumes. And he says, I spun up a new volume from that snapshot, running an archive, and I'm both verifying the correctness of that AWS, which is Amazon Web Service snapshot, and building a full node snapshot by syncing a non-archive peer against that archive. Let's see, and then we got 3 more bullet points. So I've created a small 25 gigabyte volume containing an initialized chain on block 0. This is useful for testing the Terraform scripts to ensure everything comes up naturally. 2 more. Let's see. I updated the Genesis scripts to generate correct Genesis files for both new chain and fork chain scenarios based on the Geth updates. And then the last one, I swear it's almost over. Let's see. I'm almost done with all the Terraform work, and I expect I will be tomorrow. I'll be testing this with the small initialized volume I created today. So. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's really cool, like you mentioned, to see that the things are going well. I mean, for all of us that were there for the Hex launch, things like that. The actual launch of the software itself, since it's a smart contract and things like that, I think it was like 8 months delayed. And so I know Richard has kind of thrown out some predictions of what he thought it might be, but that's awesome to hear that they're making progress. Thanks for bringing that up. That's exciting.
Yeah, I want to bring that up first thing. And like Richard has always said, he's like, listen, I can predict tops, I can predict bottoms. He goes, but I can't predict software or code. He's said that. He's like, I can't. The whole joke, 2 weeks type thing. 2 months type thing is like you don't know until it's done. And, Richard's kind of a perfectionist. So, I mean, he's not going to launch something that's just going to, run into crap. He produced a perfect product with Hex. I mean, think about it. He produced a product that has performed with 100% uptime, no glitches, no codes, no administrators, no backdoors, nothing, right? And everybody in the quote Furu space said it would fail. It's a scam. It's a Ponzi. I still have the guys I used to stream with. God, I miss those guys, but not really. Really, not really. Is when I first introduced Hex, when it first launched to our YouTube streaming channel, was like, they shot it down. And I'm just like, bro, don't hate. I'm like, just put it out there. Let people do their own research. Because I'm about that. I mean, don't take anything face value. Do your research. Because the better you are at doing research and researching what Hex is, what any crypto is, what PulseChain will be, if you do that research and you have the knowledge, you can be an informed decision maker on your own thing. Because a lot of people, and I've said this I said it to Peter Brandt the other day and Richard was like, I forgive you, because Peter Brandt came out on Twitter and was like, apologized, like, hey, to all the altcoin people, like, hey, I was kind of wrong, sorry for trashing it. And it's okay. I mean, because that's a smart man. That's somebody who's willing to sit there and admit, like, you know what, I was wrong. And, I gave him a hand clap and, good for you. Thank you for coming out and saying that, because the fact that there's people still unwilling, people that I was previously involved in that I contacted back. I may meet them in Vegas this December just for their meetup. But they're like, I told the one guy, he called it a Ponzi for long. So I'm like, bro, do you not see what's happened in less than 2 years? He's like, well, and then he came back with the response of, well, I never said you couldn't make money off of Ponzi's. I'm just like, are you serious? Like, you won't even first it was a scam, then it was a Ponzi. I'm like, can you not, at what point do you sit there and admit to yourself, like, you let our users, our viewers down on like millions of possible dollars. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, as I always consider like life as a, kind of like a student. It's a lifelong learning journey type deal. And as someone that's followed Richard since it was like early March 2017 when I got into crypto that I found out about him and heard about him. But anyways, to see him go from Bitcoin maximalist to, okay, Ethereum is not as bad as I was thinking in the past. They've made some upgrades. The point that you mentioned, right? Being able to kind of admit when you're wrong and be able to update your worldview, right? That's something that any successful person does, right? You admit that you don't know everything, and that there's just always things to learn. So you mentioned something else earlier too about the software that Richard's done with just Hex, and when it comes to things like other cryptos or like DeFi and things like this. A lot of them have either rug pulls or admin keys or, like a glitch in the matrix. Like we just saw, someone had mentioned, maybe I can pull it up, but they were talking about the Solana blockchain that they went offline for like 24 hours. And I think it was some sort of admin key thing that they turned it off. But the point is like you mentioned, not only in software in general, but especially cryptocurrency software, it's really unheard of, like even with Bitcoin and things like this, 100% uptime and things like that. So the fact that we have that is super powerful. And then the other thing that you mentioned too about the misnomer of calling it a Ponzi and things like that, it's unfortunate, right? Because a lot of people, instead of doing their own research, like you mentioned, they listen to someone else that they think is credible, or they don't do all the research. They just kind of look at it from the outside as opposed to really in depth. And Hex is anything but that. You can go to hex.com/scam, and you can see a lot of the questions that people might have, and there's a lot of rebuttals that prove that, hey, no, this is actual financial product software, not anything that they're calling it Ponzi, things like that.
Yeah, and the definitions, they're easily thrown around without understanding. And I appreciate. Yeah, actually, I never heard about that /scam thing. I'll have to go check that out. But one of the things I'm a great influencer because I've been in the crypto space for over 6 years, and I've only onboarded a couple people in the process. And we were talking about it here at the workspace this morning, and I was telling them the people who I onboarded and stuff, and I told about crypto. There's two people I use as an example. One gentleman you mentioned, Ron, beginning. I chided him for playing poker last night, but another gentleman that got it early on. He was day 4. I was day 1. And he was day 4. I mean, I explained it to him, and for whatever reason, he jumped in. And this guy's I would say I'd give a shout out to him because he's more accelerated than me. This guy just started picking up the knowledge and learning about it and invested, and he's doing so. He paid for a house in crypto. I mean, you can't change that. I mean, you can't go back and, sit there and tell me, well, you can't take any money out. Alex Saunders. I'm like, no, this guy bought a house. I'm like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
No. So
yeah, it's interesting. I know Richard had a interview yesterday with or a live stream with Zuby is his name, Zuby.
Yeah, Zuby.
But one thing that he had mentioned was like, Hex is kind of like an anomaly, and even since the beginning, Richard's been since 23 retired multimillionaire, etc. He's not doing this for the money, right? But when you look at all of the other like quote unquote like crypto influencers and stuff, they have a Bybit or a Binance and all these different margin links. And the point that I'm getting at is the Hex product and the Hex community is like the complete opposite, because we're teaching people how to fish, we're educating people not just on crypto and finance, but many other aspects that are important to growth and things like that. And the other people, they're it's like what Richard said, they're feeding the followers into the meat grinder. And when it comes to ethics and morals and stuff like that, as someone that kind of prides himself in like being consistent with my word and whatnot, that's the most like disgusting thing is these dishonest actors, because like you mentioned, they're costing people a lot of money by not giving them that opportunity that other people have had. So I definitely agree, and it's cool that your buddy got into it as well. I mean, I see someone saying that they had a problem trying to get someone, John May, saying trying to get my buddy here in Hex. He's being ignorant, and it's like that saying that I say all the time that like you can kind of show someone the path and show them the way, right? But they might not be ready, and they might not take it. So like when the student is ready, they'll make the changes. But it's cool that a lot of people, they say it's kind of like an IQ test, right? Like on both ends of the spectrum. Like the ones in the middle, they're kind of like too smart for their own good, and they don't get it. But on both other sides, they get it very well. So
yeah, and I mean, here's a good example, something that I just did last night. So, and I've done this in the past. I've talked about it, whether it's online or I did it on stream. But so I grabbed a Lyft driver to run down to the store yesterday evening, and I do this all the time. I love the Lyft and Uber drivers because they got the hustle. Either doing it as full time, most of them do as side time hustle. And so I asked one gentleman, his name was Carlos, and so I said, "Hey, you do this full time?" Or he's like, "No, I just do it on my days off. I work for, and I won't mention the company, automotive group here." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "What do you do there?" He's like, "I do finance and stuff." And I'm like, "That's awesome." Long story short is I come back out and we're heading back home, and I sit there and go, "You ever heard of cryptocurrencies? Or like Bitcoin?" I mean, because Bitcoin is obviously the tag word for crypto. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I never got involved with it and stuff." And I said, "Interesting." I'm like, "So you probably never heard of Hex, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, never heard of that." And I'm like, "I know Bitcoin. I thought about getting into it." And he's from Argentina originally. And and he's like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, what I do is I'm staging myself for retirement. I could have retired after Vegas, but I've delayed it. But so long story short is like, so I think you'd be interested in where I work, because give everybody the background history. I'm a retired chef. I have 7 years in automotive as an automotive detailer. And Val, we talked about this last time about the loose change project and stuff. But so I said, "Yeah," I said, "I happen to work for the same company." And I'm like, "But I work down in the detailing aspect." And he's like, "Well, you probably know my wife, Gaddy." And I'm like, "I know Gaddy." Like, she works for Subaru Detail. She was down in her shop while they were remodeling the new building. And it's like, holy moly. So I left them with, Hex.com, PulseChain.com. I gave him my, @ symbol, @ HexDeck16 on Twitter. And then, I tipped him generously, gave him a $50 tip for a $15 ride. I'm like, listen, do yourself a favor and do your own research. And I think that's the most important thing. Do your own research.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, it's crazy, kind of just the world that we live in, right? Like we were kind of alluding to earlier. But some people, if they'll kind of look in Hex, they'll say they're doing their own research. They'll go to Google for like 3 minutes, and a lot of the articles are really old articles, but they'll spend like 3 to 5 minutes, and then, oh yeah, it's a scam. This guy's a scammer, and blah blah blah. And like I said, little do they take note to mention the date and things like that. And then at the end of the day, when it comes down to Hex, like whether people like it or not, like facts don't really care about your feelings, right? And we've got the 100% uptime, the performance. I mean, literally nothing else has outperformed Hex in 2020 and currently 2021. And I mean, right now we were just at 40 cents when we started the stream. We're at like 39.9. Like the price itself is just doing what it's supposed to do, which is like programmed currency, and it's just one big giant parabola. One thing I did have to ask, because someone had asked it in the comment, but Fatal Fury says, who is this guy? Hex OG ? Do you maybe want to tell them a little bit?
I don't know. How do I answer that? Who's this guy? I'm a Hexkin from day one. I've been in the crypto space since, I think we covered this on the other interview and stuff, although that was with a very bad computer and bad sound. I got into crypto back 2016. I bought my first 3 Bitcoin when it was $634 on November 4th, 2016. So fact check, go back. And have been in the space, done a lot with crypto, been very successful. Stopped trading 2.5 years ago. I was one of the few, the 10%ers that didn't get wrecked, but I found out, and it was so stressful. I got tired of waking up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning when a trading bell went off on a computer. On a dead sleep to try to, make a couple $100. That was dumb. But, we go through this progression. I mean, people do. And I've been involved, early on with several shit coins, so to speak. Sorry. I don't like to swear like Richard.
Oh, no, please do, man. Hey, I'm all about
but,
emphasis.
But reality is, who am I? I'm nobody. Just to give you an example, and Balt and I started something that was called the Loose Change Project several years ago, back on the Bitcoin.hub with Peter Saddington had launched it. He's kind of a crypto, innovator in space and stuff. He was the first. If you go look up a meme online, you type in Bitcoin Lambo guy, you'll see Peter. He's sitting there with a cup of coffee in his hand, and there's a Lambo behind him. And the meme came out as like, I've been in crypto and, I got this cup of coffee and it was his Lambo. It was one of the idea projects we had with the Bitcoin Hub. It was like, hey, Peter, why don't you just go buy a Lambo and like tag it like we're doing now in Hex. Yeah, there you go.
Is this the one? Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Peter Saddington. Great mentor, super, super good friend. We haven't talked. We've interacted a couple times, but honestly, he's the guy who encouraged me to continue. And he tried to push me towards more doing YouTube stuff. But he's the guy that, I give as a mentor in my life in the crypto space for becoming a millionaire, multimillionaire. Because my thing with the Loose Change Project, and this is true, guys, is I used to sit there and pick up pennies and change. I detail cars. So when a car's traded in, you get a car, you got to clean it out. What do you find underneath the car seat? You find loose change. And I used to raid the vacuums. We got like 9 vacuums in the shop. So I did this for a process of a number of years. And I'd raid the vacuums, and when the mayonnaise jar got full, I'd invest it into crypto. And that's how I started. So that's who I am. I mean, and I never forget my roots, because just the other day, Ron, the gentleman, Ron Kroon, that you mentioned early on, that I told to stop playing poker and gambling, is the other day I was in the shop, because I'm not retiring till after Vegas, but I already told my boss this morning that I said, just so you know, my 2 weeks are in. And he's like, I thought you were going to leave earlier. So I just as a joke, I picked up a penny off the floor and I held it up and I'm like, hey, Ron, look, the money has started. He's like, bro, it's like, you are the only millionaire I know that would pick a penny off the ground. But I remember reading so much about lifestyles of different people. I mean, I love to read. And I remember the whole story about Sam Walton. I mean, the guy used to drive a beat up truck. You know, his comment was, I buy him by the pound. You know, I mean, and that guy, that was, I mean, this is 20 years ago. I mean, reading that story, but it's always been inspirational. It's always stuck with me. It's like, never forget where you come from. You know, I don't pretend to be, you know, anybody fancy, that type of thing. I really want to get back to the community though.
No, that's cool. I mean, I know we were talking about that the other day, but you know, yeah, now that a lot of Hexicans, I mean, you know, thankfully to Hex, a lot of people are being able to have their time bought back, right? But then, like you mentioned as well, you know, what is your why and what is your motivation for getting up out of bed and things like this? You know, when you have that covered, because most people don't. And I know someone like Richard's been retired for 15 years, you know, since he was 23. And anyways, now he says to Zuby the other day that, and he said this before, but it's really about legacy and glory and things like that. And, you know, that's the really cool thing about Richard, is not only, you know, are his ambitions, you know, so profound when it comes to crypto and financial, you know, revolutionary products, but same thing with, you know, health and wellness and things like that. And then, you know, similar to the health part, you mentioned trading. I mean, the other day on Nights of Crypto, Wendy's, you know, Wendy's for Tendies, he was saying that, I like that guy. And it's cool to kind of interact with him a little bit more, you know, so many people to interact with. But anyways, he was saying the same thing, that, you know, he was one of the few that didn't get wrecked trading and things like that. But, you know, just because he didn't get wrecked, or you didn't get wrecked, like you mentioned, doesn't mean it didn't have a certain cost. And so at the end of the day, Richard's talked about that too, whether it's, especially with crypto, since it's just 24/7, right? It's not like stocks and things like that, you know, have a closing bell, but whether it's gambling or, you know, any form of trading type deal, it's not the most productive thing to be spending your time on. And even when you are and succeeding at it, you're kind of like, you know, there's a win-loss, you know, you're winning and the other person is kind of losing, you know. Exactly. So it's cool that with Hex, I mean, you know, it literally just monetizes time. And you know, you can't really, it's like one of the first things that with bonds, I think you can sell out, you know, T-bills and stuff like that. But with Hex, like, you know, when you're locked, you're locked. It's just a smart contract. So it's really cool that the system itself kind of just honors people that, you know, do what they said they would. I really like that.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing too is, and at this point, I have so many laddered stakes that, you know, I'm just like, in fact, I did another stake because you know, I've got a little bit more to dump in just for the fun of it at this point. This excess capital just sitting around doing something unattended when you have somebody working for you at night, you know, it's deploy the capital. But, you know, the thing is and I've explained this to several Hexicans that I've, you know, onboarded here in Montana. I mean, I had a dinner party at my house last Saturday. So I got 1, 2, 3, I think 3, not 4. 3 of them signed up with wallets and got them, you know, all set up, explained the seed phrase stuff, you know, the whole bit. Just a fun event. You know, I cooked them dinner. I'm a retired chef, so professional chef.
What'd you cook?
I made this simple dish, and, you know, and I'm not going to like pretend this is special. It's actually one of my top 7 because I love it so much, but it's actually on TikTok. So you guys need to go look it up. Just look up the cherry tomato and feta pasta dish on TikTok. It went viral. It's super delicious, super easy. You can execute it in 25 minutes. Not a lot of ingredients. Cherry tomatoes, garlic, olive oil, fresh block of feta, bake it in the oven, 400 degrees, 20 minutes, pull it out, turn it up to 425, throw it back in, let it burn off the feta, and then pull it out, stir it all together, chop up some fresh basil, mix in your pasta from the pasta water, and serve it. It's great. One dish. So
Nice.
there's the cooking tip on hex.com. We joked about it. Peter said, I mentioned Peter before, but we talked about cooking with crypto. I was going to do a YouTube stream type thing with that, but I chose not to. But and so everybody, I fed everybody, we onboarded, and then we had a little fire pit with marshmallows at the house. And then, played a little fake poker, for no money. We only play with chips, no money. I like the game theory of poker, but, I don't like going gambling, that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, like you mentioned, you kind of onboarded a handful of people at a time. And, if there's anything that I've learned, being successful in anything, right? Whether it's finance or anything like that, being successful alone and having, your friends and your peer groups not have that same success is never fun, right?
No.
And so it's cool to bring them up. So, like you mentioned, a few people over dinner, things like that. I know, like I said, Tendies, Wendy's for Tendies, he had mentioned that even since he retired, his full-time job is like pretty much onboarding people, and it's and same thing with Motley. I mean, Motley actually has a pretty cool concept that he was telling me about. That right now we're on StreamYard, and I've got the package that you can have like up to 9 people besides yourself. And so, anyways, Motley onboards people via the StreamYard, just in a private session in a little green room thing. But it's cool to be able to educate people, right? Because I had given Hex out after the uni airdrop, to some family members and friends and things like that. But even though I'd given it to them, and obviously the price is looking really, really good from where it was the principal, they didn't really like, if you kind of just, like I said, if you give the person the fish as opposed to teaching them, they kind of, they take it for granted as opposed to realizing, oh my gosh, like, this is actually something that, like you mentioned, you'll pick up, pennies and put it into the crypto itself. I mean, when you mention not forgetting your old ways and your roots and things like that, I think that that's very important because, a lot of people become wealthy and successful, and whether it's sudden wealth syndrome and things like that. But the ones that do forget, like you mentioned, their the things that got them to there in the first place, usually it doesn't last very long. So that's pretty cool that you're staying true.
That's why I'm glad, I found Maddie's channel, initial on stuff with the sudden Wilson, because it's true. I mean, when it hits hard. I mean, it hit hard after Vegas, and I mean, Vegas was real, but then it became surreal after Vegas. And then, and I'm thankful for what Maddie does. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to a lot of the Hexicans, Wales only, shout out to you, bro. Bringing facts and, or like Kareem bringing receipts, like just not facts, but receipts, but it really is true, is the fact that, and I've tried to explain this to people that I've onboarded and stuff, it's like a lot of people say they want to become a millionaire. And I think maybe Richard brought it out at one point, but what they're honestly saying in their minds is, I want to spend $1 million. Like, that's not how you stay wealthy, And I think Wales was one of the ones that, with a quote, he's like about, stay broke, but not poor. It's, and we were talking about this morning as far as lifestyle living and stuff. I have not, changed or dramatically made any moves, because the one thing that I learned in an advice thing was, like, if you ever become suddenly wealthy, is do absolutely nothing for 6 months. Don't change your job. Don't go buy anything. Don't buy a house. I mean, don't change your lifestyle. I mean, because it's going to take that adjustment time. And it's true. I'm just near the end of that 6 months phase. You know, and I think I've relatively adjusted pretty well. But then again, I'm not a big flashy guy. You know, I don't know what to say other than the fact that, like, I'm just incredibly grateful to have the reserve that I do. Like, to think there's nothing I ever have to worry or want for the rest of my life. And it's only going to get better. We get a double when PulseChain launches, right?
Yeah, no, that's the exciting part. And like, I saw one of your, one of your tweets a long time ago. It was like one of the Hex Flex things, but yeah, not only taking care of yourself for your own things and not having money be something that you're stressed or worried about, or, you know, be a problem type deal, which is amazing in itself. But even being able to, like I mentioned, help the other people, like your family members that you care about, things like that. Yeah, I think that's really cool because, you know, like you mentioned, you could buy, you know, this flashy thing and that flashy thing, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, kind of not your thing and not something that you need. So why not just keep that capital in something that's going to be working for you anyway? So I think that's really cool.
I think you were talking about the my neighbor when
the trip.
Louise, when I first moved here in Montana, she's kind of like the grandmother that took care of the kids from my neighbors when I first moved here. And so her whole thing was she always wanted to see Mount Rushmore. So I made it happen for her. And that was great. I mean, to see her out there, I mean, you know, she's walker wheelchair, you know, at this point, you know, she's assisted living home, but I mean, that was her thing. I mean, she wanted to see Mount Rushmore. I'm like, guess what, Louise? You're going to Mount Rushmore. So, yeah. But as far as materialistic things, I will probably say that, you know, I'll do my Hex Flex after Vegas because one of my dream cars has always been a Maserati. So I'll probably trade Mercedes and buy the Maserati after Vegas. And that'll be my Hex Flex. I don't have anything to say after that. But not practical cars. Expensive to have fixed, the whole bit. You know, it's like putting a boat in the ocean. You know, they always joke about, you know, you buy a boat, you know, it's a hole in the water you pour money into. So
yep, yeah, I've definitely heard that from a boat owner, that like the two best days are like the day that you first bought it and then like the day that you sold it type deal. You know, kind of like you mentioned, just being a money sink. And, you know, I've had people ask me the same thing that honestly I've never really thought about as well. I mean, my Hex Flex was kind of just, you know, not having to work for someone and things like that. But they had asked me like, oh, you know, what do you want to do for the Hex Flex? And like, really, I can't think of anything, you know. And so similar to what you're mentioning, especially for things that are these kinds of decisions, I think that's a really wise thing to do, like you mentioned, not do anything for 6 months and things like that, because your mind can definitely go back and forth to what you think you want, but it might just be like a short-term gratification thing that you realize doesn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and the thing is, you know, it comes down to, you know, personal choice, personal decision stuff. You know, one of the things I always sit there and say, because a lot of people are like, oh, thank you, Richard, you know, Hartford, thank you for making me rich. And I love Richard, right? But I'm sitting there going, listen, you know, thank yourself in a sense. Like, if you did your research, if you invested your capital, you know, and you spent your time and your due diligence figuring something out, because he did create a completed, you know, 100% uptime product. I'm like, that's, excuse my French, but effing awesome, right?
Yeah.
But
oh, dude, totally.
You have to make the decision, and you have to make the choices of stake length, you know, because I even had guys ask me like, well, how long should I stake? I'm like, bro, I can't tell you that. I mean, you know, I don't know your lifestyle, your situation, you know, what your financial goals are. I don't need to know. I mean, all I am showing you is an opportunity. What you choose to do with that opportunity, 100% completely up to you. You know, and then we have so many shots coming in the forward, you know, PulseChain launch. And, you know, there's at least 2 other products coming after that, but I will talk about that right now.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I know there was a a Ask Me Anything on Reddit with one of Richard Hart's developers. But anyways, they were talking about the question was the the yield farming, like just some of the stuff that's kind of going to be happening on PulseChain, aside from just Pulse and Hex and eHex and things like that. But anyways, the point that I'm getting at that you kind of alluded to is yeah, Richard's got even though there's no profits and expectations and stuff like that from others, he definitely has a lot of stuff in store to replace what's currently in the system. I mean, Hex is great because it's a financial product and asset, and it's like a high interest savings account. But things like PulseChain, I think, are really going to show what's up to Ethereum. And like we saw the other day, like we talked about Solana, you can't have, I mean, blockchains in general, they're really slow databases, and the only thing that they're supposed to be good for is censorship resistance. So if you can't even have that, then what the hell are you doing in that crypto? That's like the opposite of what it was intended for. So no wonder it's not doing very well.
And then, and I heard the comment, I think, I don't know if you read it on Twitter, but is Hex is doing what kind of like Bitcoin promised to be. Bitcoin promised to be peer-to-peer digital cash. Is it? No. Now they're producing the store of value asset type thing. But the time function in Hex is just independent code. You're not giving up your keys. You're not giving up your crypto. You're not putting them on an exchange. You're not sending it to some place you can get scammed, hacked, administrator code. That Solana thing was just classic. I mean, tragic and classic. It's like, oh yeah, we just stopped it. So yeah, so you can go in anytime you want and just hit a button. You can't do it with Hex. And that's what they call immutable. I mean, and the functions, the keys never leave your wallet. There's so many benefits to it. Speaking of benefits, we should probably bring this up at this point, because we did say about Hex Vegas, right? The conference. Okay. So we chatted, in DM last night on Twitter and stuff like that. I have a one hexagon I onboarded here, my day 4 hexagon, who's doing extremely well. Well, him and his wife are having a baby at the beginning of March. So I bought him I bought a couple hexagons a ticket, for Vegas. Because I think we talked about that briefly. Is like, there's nothing better than bring somebody with you. I mean, there's nothing like getting stupid wealthy than if you can bring a couple friends with you. And that's my why type thing is I just want them to experience the same type of thing. Long story short, he can't go this March. So, and I talked to Maddie, texting back and forth. I have an extra ticket for Vegas, $369. That's the cost of a ticket. Get to Vegas on $369 for the conference. So, and we talked about this last night. I'm willing to give it away. Maddie said I can reassign it. So, you want to talk about a giveaway?
Yeah, man. I know we had kind of talked about either doing it on this stream, which when I thought about it might it might be a little bit too early, just because I want to just like with anything else, you see people that are like, oh, I'll give $1,000 with the Hex if we get this kind of milestone. But anyways, maybe we'll have to do it after the stream and kind of align the schedules. But yeah, we'll definitely do that the next time we stream, probably rather soon, maybe in a week and a half, whatever it is. And
I thought it was a great idea.
If you want, because that way it at least gives people an opportunity that weren't watching this. So
see it on the restream. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's just a fun thing. I mean, I've already paid for the ticket. I don't want to see it go to waste. And if it goes to what I call a good cause or helping somebody else, I'm all about that. So, it just, 100%. Like and I love that about hexagons in the space. There's so many people that are generous with their time, the resources, or just, providing information type stuff. That's why I appreciate, like Wales Only, RG3, Maddie, T Money. I mean, meeting T Money, out in Vegas and stuff like that. I mean, these guys are just give backers. I mean, there's nothing I could describe them other than being, generous spirits. But I mean, I love that about, the hexagon community.
Yeah, I've heard that similar to kind of what we've been talking about a lot on the stream, but like we talk about, kind of using money and things like that to buy the experiences, and that's what you mentioned with the trip for the neighbor and things like that. But even bringing other people on board as well. I mean, how cool is that? I don't see it in any other community, like I mentioned, where you've got such a generous group of people. And the other thing that's cool too is like, successful people that are in real estate, like Funding Jim, Gary, he's very successful before crypto and things like that. And it's cool that people like him, Robert Kiyosaki, the other day, Ben Malla, they're understanding that they were successful in real estate, still are, or whatever industry, but they're also updating their worldview as we talk about to realize that, hey, crypto is not going away anytime soon. And the crazy thing is that Bitcoin did its 6.5 million X with 2 inflation bugs. One of them was like enabled and then rolled back and things like that. But the point is it did 6.5 freaking million X, and that's with all of the flaws that it has. I mean, so anyways, with Hex having less negative externalities than that, like that's just really exciting. And then someone did have a question about what is the 369. Oh yeah, right here, Mint Hex. Okay. So yeah, it's just March 6th through the 9th. So it's going to be the second Vegas conference. And the cool thing about this too is there was already a lot of people that I got to see very briefly at the most recent one that we had. And that was just the first year, right? Like we're just going to continue seeing, and we still say pre-viral, which is true, but it's just crazy to think like RG3 was kind of painting this picture and whatnot that, he could see a future, and I see this too. But one day where you have like stadiums and stuff like that are like rented out because there's just so many people that you want to get into the same location. So you need either convention center, things like that. So that's the cool thing is the other people that are coming on board too, because it's not something like we mentioned that is a win-loss. Like there's Richard says there's always meat on the bone, and it's designed to be sustainable, for everyone getting in.
And I know when you and I met, like that first day, t-shirt, hat, sign up, check-in type thing, and we were talking there. I remember Nagaboo came over, and you're like, Nagaboo! I'm like, yeah. But, and I mean, it's only been, 4 or 5 months since then. But as a community, that whole meetup gathering, because it wasn't really, quote, organized. We had some event things planned. But, I mean, it's not going to be – I think the conference this year will be a lot more structured, talking about workshops, talks and different things. And obviously a big, larger venue than, how we did it before. But the organic growth, I mean, the success of that catapult us in with price appreciation and more onboarding and people finding out and it going more, all this viral marketing. That's the thing I love. It's not like it's centralized. I mean, nobody's like, Richard's not paying out of pocket for all this stuff. We're doing it organically as a group, so whether it's, doing a billboard outside an airport, wrapping, Audis, R8s, and Hex things, or, we're giving away Hex or, onboarding people or, free tickets, that type of thing. It helps that that growth potential. And like you said, pre-viral. I still scratch my head at that. I tell a couple Hexicans and stuff. I'm like, you think this is a joke? I'm like, this is no joke. When it hits $10, I'm like, do you want to know how laughable that is? I mean, you think things are ridiculous now, and there's people like talking about, $100 hex and up to 1,000 and beyond. But I mean, one step at a time type thing. But it's following the trajectory of how Bitcoin launched, and it's doing what Bitcoin probably should have done or could have done. I mean, Bitcoin was programmed and still is programmed with a lockable code, but you don't earn any interest, right? So this is just performing. As Wales always say, it's math. I love it when it's like, it's math, it's code.
Yep.
So you can't stop or change that. I mean, it's immutable. So freaking love it.
Yeah, that's
I honestly do. I love it.
That's the most cool thing about it to me is its immutability. There's not a company or corporation or Richard Hart that is giving the yield or things like that. It's all just a smart contract, which is awesome. And then, like you mentioned as well, a lot of people they don't have all the information, right? So they think, oh my God, $10 hex, like you said, might seem like astronomical, but I mean, Bitcoin was sub penny too. And the other thing that's actually interesting too, that I kind of had the epiphany of when I did this really long stream with Wales, but the first like 500 something days of Bitcoin, it didn't have any like value. Like it didn't really, have any kind of like free market trading price type deal. But Hex has already kind of, not already outperformed its what Bitcoin has done, but since like day one, it kind of already had that value exchange and kind of free market thing going on. So the more people that lock it up and the average staking length keeps going up. When you talk about Bitcoin not having an incentive to lock it, that's really the cool thing about Hex, right? We can back up, like you mentioned about Kareem, bringing the receipts, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk too, and showing people. And one thing I want to mention as you brought it up about grassroots movement and the community was the Freedom TV and Crypto Sparbu. So we're gonna just take a look at this real quick, just because I don't think I've covered it since a long time, if ever. But anyway, so 8-Bit Hex and Patrick Hex Lion, they're kind of traveling around all of the 48 states, I think. There's a little screenshot of what states they'll be in, but this is one of the wraps that they did, which is an Audi. Audi R8, which is awesome. And the cool thing that Alan on the right here was saying that's kind of like his dream car and things like that. So not only is he able to drive that, but he's also able to represent a financial product too. So it's kind of like a win-win. So they have a PulseChain one as well, and then a Staker.app one that's pretty cool too. So like you mentioned, kind of the more that the community keeps growing, we just have these things that people are doing by themselves. And how awesome is that?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I look forward to it. I mean, that tour is going across the United States until it ultimately ends up in Vegas. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard somebody mention something about it, and if I'm mistaken, but I think they were going to give those away or something like that. Vegas conference. I'll have to double check that information, but that'd be totally sweet. Like somebody gets to win that R8 fully wrapped hex and just drive that sucker home from Vegas. Fun
Seriously,
stuff.
No, that would be cool. But yeah.
No, and these are Hexicans doing this with their own money, with their own resources. There's no backing. Nobody's like funding that. I mean, they're pulling together. They're getting the job done. We're getting the marketing message out. Like you said, organic growth. It's exciting. I mean, and I still go back to that day, and this is something I've brought up before, but give you an idea. I mean, I followed Richard since the Top Hat days and the self-help stuff long before. And then he started talking about Bitcoin. He was Bitcoin Maxi and everything else with a S coin or, crapping on it. Right?
Yeah, no, we can definitely swear on here. I definitely don't mind.
He changed the worldview, and like said, came out kind of like I mentioned Peter Brandt early in the stream. It was like, hey, I was wrong, and this outperformed, and this did better, and that's the platform he used to launch Hex off of. But having been there for and studying this, we've pre-launched for like a year and a half, I think. It was delays again with software and stuff. Being a conservative guy, I only deployed 25% of the potential capital I had at the time to deploy. You can talk about regrets and stuff like that, but like if I had known that, I believed I was 100%. I'm like, this is a solid project. It's a good product. Had I known how it was going to perform, right. 100% would have felt better. But that's why I didn't hold back on PulseChain. So I did a huge sacrifice. Right.
Well, it kind of goes back to what you said about like sticking true to your roots and things like that. Anyways, even though, like you mentioned, you had the 25%, it's cool. It doesn't take much capital after 10,000x for everyone to kind of be doing very, very well. And that's really cool.
That's what I love. Cream stream the other day. I think it was Quant Games or Quant Gang stream on Tuesday or something like that. But he was talking about, now he's in that new position with Staker.app and stuff. He's like, he's coming after the turtles and the crabs. And he's like, I'm going to make you millionaires. And realistically, that's completely possible. It's just incredible.
The design intention, and a lot of people don't really think about this much because it was just mentioned a long time ago. But anyways, the actual shares themselves, like each individual share. So a T share is a trillion shares, but at the end of the day, the system is eventually designed to be where each individual share is worth more than the hex. Like, how freaking cool is that? Like, that's a mind bender for sure. So that's
cool. And now we're at the point where we're really at this point at the B share stage. We're kind of outside the realm of T shares. Just as an example, just for fun, experimenting is it took I think it was like $2,500 or something like that. And so I wanted to see how long I had to stake it just to get half a T share. So I think I had to put it out like 680 days, and that gets you half a T share. So we're in the B share stage at this point, which is not a bad thing because a lot of people are like, oh, I missed out on the T shares. I'm like, bro, don't miss out on the B shares because guess what? We're going back and we're going down to M shares.
Well, yeah, and that's where I agree with kind of Motley and Wendy's for Kenny's the other day that, some people, they kind of feel that they missed the boat when we do talk about the T shares, and that's where I'm kind of changing my vernacular to just say like shares instead of, because obviously you can use the T share metric when it's relevant and price it against the dollar, but you're definitely right. What it comes down to at the end of the day is you're still getting 20% more of the shares and your reward of the interest when you stake for each year longer up to 3,641 days. So even the people that think like, I'm in too late, or that hindsight bias, right? It's
Sure.
so early that people are wondering if it's like too late type deal, and we haven't seen anything yet. Like we really haven't. And I've said this before a lot, but like Hex really is a black hole for like financial capital. And Richard talks about not only it being the top performing asset of crypto and kind of showing them how it's supposed to be, but then same thing with the traditional markets. People like Kinetics talk about that insurance companies and traditional legacy companies and things like that, they're looking for that yield and things like this that are not super high risk. And with something like Hex, without any counterparty. You can own your own keys. It's really something that a lot of people with big bags are going to continue buying in. And
Absolutely.
how bullish is it for people that are getting in now that are buying in before, the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Ben Mallas, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the unimaginable. I mean, think about like people watch Bitcoin go from $1 to $10, and then they got to cash out and watch it go to $100. And then people that like at $100, like, man, I wish I had got in at $10. And I mean, the story's written, so to speak. But and that's the beauty of Hex, the beauty of delayed gratification. God, I love that aspect. It's because I think I explain this to everybody when they get in, because they, there's the false information out there about like, oh, you got to lock up your tokens and you can't get your money. I'm like, well, you can end your stake anytime you want, but here are the penalties involved if you do, and here's your gaming options, because it's based on, the trust, the fact of you say you're going to do this for 3 years, then, just do it for 3 years. If you don't have, if you're investing money that you need for, intensive purposes, 2-3 months, and you're staking something out for 3 years, just don't do it. I mean, just don't be dumb. I mean, be reasonable. I mean, and that's the thing. And that's the thing I love is like all the stuff I have laddered, in my stakes. And I do now have a Quattro Cinco. That'll put me, just dox myself in a sense. That'll make me 68 at the time that comes out. But I mean, I have all these laddered stakes, and like I explain to people, I'm like, I don't need any of that money now. I mean, the next one that comes out, throat choking, October 15th. And this is the thing we talked about last night in the DMs when we were joking about with Geraldo, was the whole good accounting function. Because, I'm not going to end stake and mint my coins because I just don't want that taxable event. I've got enough this year. I don't need any more. And I don't need the money, right? So not only for, one, like he pointed out in his tweet, was one, you run good accounting. So you're burning those T-shares, which make T-shares more valuable. Two, you're not flooding back the market system with a whole bunch of hacks. So you're protecting the price for the benefit of the community. And not only that, but you have it there at some future point to mint at, Lord willing, a higher price point, an appreciation, from, where we're at now. So there's a lot of benefits to that. And if you don't need that money, you can just set that aside. Some people choose to, mint it out and restake it. Respect. I've done that with a couple of my earlier ones because, like I said, I didn't have the longest term view when I had 2, 3, 5 year, 1.5 year stakes. But after the first stake, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to do anything for 2 or 3 years. So I'm like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, and the very cool thing about Hex too is if you are going to realize some gains and profit and things like that, the higher that the price goes up, I mean, the less you have to sell. And then the other thing I want to say too is people act like some people are just never going to sell sometimes. I mean, I shouldn't say that people act like that, but sometimes I kind of get that vibe, right? That it's a bad thing and whatnot. But the only thing that I'll say is learn how to sell properly when you do realize, a little bit of interest or profit and things like that. What I'm referring to is things like limit orders, right? You can go to matcha.xyz, 1inch.io, things like this, where you become the liquidity and you're not actually affecting the price per se, but other people that are buying, they're kind of paying the fee to buy into your sell. And so that way you're not dumping the price, and you're also getting the maximized money and profit and things like that. So just something that I've thought about, because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, with good accounting, things like this, there really is all of the tools and systems and information that you need to really be successful. And the other thing that you mentioned too that Richard talks about is like how much is enough. I mean, he was a multi-millionaire when he was 23, let alone Bitcoin and then things like this. So it's cool that after you have a certain amount of wealth accumulation that all the things that you could buy kind of just become arbitrary. And then like we talked about, you kind of focus on the why and things like that. And if there's any community that I've seen make, and I'm not talking about crypto, but just all of the other communities compared to Hex in general, I think Hexicans really have high ambitions to make the world a better place.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot who it was that I kind of pointed out pretty clearly, but to give an idea, like with wealth, like if you were a terrible degenerate before you became wealthy in Hex or in Hex, like you're just going to be that much more of a degenerate, or if you were, a really good person, or, I shouldn't make that type of value decision, but, if you were this type of person that, was outward focused rather than more inward focused, less selfish, more selfless, then you just get to do more with that aspect. It's a leverage, leveraging time and money type thing. But the hardest thing that actually the most rewarding thing that I found out since getting, this opportunity of wealth is the fact that like I was so focused on the grind, had my nose to the grindstone, trying to earn it, trying to make it, and then, this happened and it's like, now I can kind of ease back. I mean, I can feel the stress, is just gone, I mean, and then I have time to contemplate of like, wow, I can take a step back and really see what direction, I can spend, because time's limited, right? I mean, I'm almost 54 now, and I mean, I have X number of hours. I wish I was 24 like you, bro. You only missed Richard by a year, but congrats. And no, I mean, now you have this entire opportunity of time to really develop and grow things. And and that's the thing is, that's why I'm looking to retire, after Vegas, is like, just figure where my give back is, enjoy my life, live comfortably, help others, and just see where this thing goes. And that's what, one of the things we discussed in the background type thing is the fact that like, probably get back more into the YouTubing. It's not antagonistic for me. The last experience I had YouTubing with that group was just like, always left that bitter taste in my mouth of like, in the back of my head, I'm just like, I'm not selling a product, and you see it on my Twitter, it's like, I'll never ask you to join a paid group. Like, I've got nothing to sell you. There's nothing you can buy from me. I don't need your money. I'm not going to put my, Hex address or my Ethereum address, send me this. Like, but all I wanted to do was early on was help those people in that particular group I was with, that talked about multiple cryptos, but they were kind of Bitcoin centric. And I got shot down every Friday night. And after 2 months, it just got tiring. Like, let me just put it out there. I'm not promoting it. All I'm doing is presenting it. And my whole encouragement to anybody, if you're new here on the stream, just figuring out about Hex, you stumbled upon this talk, is do your own research. Don't let somebody make your decisions or make your mind up for you.
Well, dude, that's how I came across Richard in the first place. Like a lot of people, I don't mention it very much, but like I said, I found Richard early 2017, and I was into Litecoin at the time because same thing, Bitcoin was expensive, so I was like, oh, silver to gold. Anyways, somehow I was on Reddit and heard someone, crap talking Richard Hart, and I was like, for me, any time that I've ever heard someone just blatantly say something like that, I don't just take them at their word, right? Just like you mentioned, especially with Richard, I'm glad I did, because sometimes I'll be like, I'll just avoid that person's opinion and whatnot. But anyways, with Richard, I wanted to verify what they were saying was true or false because I was just getting into crypto. And turns out that person that was hating on Richard kind of brought me into finding out about him and then realizing as someone that's genuine and can kind of see when people's intentions are good or not, that holy heck, man, like this guy's first videos, like you talk about, are self-help, and he's not doing these things that the other people in the industry are doing. One thing I wanted to say real quick is, like I mentioned before, I think I brought you on in the stream at the very beginning, was that Hex really is worldwide and global. And so we got up here that I've had for a while, a comment on the screen, and then I'll go to the super chat in a second here. But Michael Morton, he says, great stream, guys. Watching this from home in South Africa. I'm late to the Hex party, but super happy to be a part of the community. And that's the cool thing about Hex too, right? Like I mentioned, we're so early that people like yourself that got in like relatively late think that you're late compared to the OGs. But in reality, a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, whatever, people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm late. And you're going to be kind of that OG. And then just real quick, Hexiest Man in the World says, always got to support my man, Bran, $10 super chat. So shout out to him.
Yeah. And it's funny. I saw South Africa, and I just did this recently this past month is I had a contribution I was going to make to a missionary friend. He's a second-generation missionary in Ghana, West Africa. And then one of the things I thought about was I took a portion of what I was going to donate and I invested it for a year and a half in Hex. I made a stake basically because I'm like, in a year and a half, this will be worth a whole lot more than what I could just give them up front. So gave a little up front, but it's going to be a big surprise, Lord willing, when we get to that point. And that's the valuation of time, because it was a generous amount. So, but it could be just a stupendous amount in a year and a half. So we'll see. We'll do an update on that when that stake ends, because it'll be incredible.
Totally. It's it's amazing. I mean, yeah. Anyways, just some of the like I mentioned, that Uniswap airdrop, I think it was like $400 at the time or something. But
I think it was you got 400 uni. I think it was like $1,200.
Okay,
yeah.
That's right. That's right. But just real quick, because it is important, and I think I've heard her comment, maybe her or someone else in the past on one of the videos. But Sandra Larson says, I worry about the Ethereum price getting in the way of my Hex purchases. And yeah, I mean, the cool thing is what you have right now with, say, your Hex purchases, whether it's liquid or staked, that's all going to get duplicated when PulseChain gets launched and copies over that system state. But it's also going to really dramatically lower the fees, because as someone like yourself, it's an OG, myself too. I mean, I remember when the ETH fees were a freaking penny to send, and now, shit, like $60, $70, whatever it is to send, and let alone stake, unstake. Like, it's just crazy. So it goes to show you that there's quite a problem. And anyway, so to Sandra's thing that she's mentioning, PulseChain is something that Richard's been working on. There's updates. It hopefully is out by the end of the year, Lord willing type deal. But that will definitely solve that problem. And I think that that's also cool, because it'll allow people to do like experiment stakes, right? If they want to do, I don't know, like a 20-day stake, whatever, like, smaller time frame, if they wanted to just experiment. Because right now, if people try and do that, and this is something that's kind of important, if people are doing that, like I mentioned, there's a cost for running the network, because Hex is just a smart contract. And since it's on the ETH network, everything that you're doing, whether it's a send, stake, unstake, that all costs gas, which is, another cost on top of it. So when you're ending a stake, it costs more than starting a stake, because the network and the miners, they have to verify that all of that interest and things like that were properly accounted. So PulseChain's definitely going to help out with that.
Yeah, the staking fees will wreck, or I mean the gas fees will wreck you at this point if you're doing it with low stakes. I have a couple of the guys I onboarded that Saturday. One of them in general, he only had X number of dollars to put in. And I told him, I said, at this point right now, unless you have basically twice that, staking at this point for the gas fees, and I showed him the network and Ethereum gas tracker, that type of stuff. Like, makes no sense. But you have your hex now, so you're going to get a duplicate copy on PulseChain, and you can continue to build your bundle at this point. You're in it, and you're in it to win it, and you'll have a greater opportunity to choose to stake once PulseChain's launched. Unless gas fees dramatically drop. But I remember the last stake I ran good accounting on. It wasn't a huge stake, but I had to run it, because time is up, and it cost me $180. And I was just like, God, I remember when I staked this, it cost me like 7 cents. I mean, that's the reality of fact. A year and a half ago, just a little over a year and a half ago, it cost like 7-8 cents, to make that stake. So.
Well, Richard talks about, and I know Bitfinesse loves this, which by the way, I want to talk to him sometime soon. It's been a minute since I've seen him, but when it comes down to Hex, right, we pride ourselves in no counterparty and things like that. But Hex is kind of like a hybrid because it's using the Ethereum network, which is proof of work for the transactions and stuff like that, and then it uses proof of stake. But what I'm getting at is when Hexicans are spending ETH to run the network and the smart contract, that's all just going to a negative externality that's going to get sold anyways, because since it's proof of work, the miners need to pay for the electricity. And so it's disgusting and incredible to think since the beginning till now, how much Ethereum and dollars have Hexicans spent to the ETH miners that don't need to be as high of a fee as they are. So PulseChain's definitely going to help that and kind of get things back on track where they needed to be. You mentioned Bitcoin kind of changing narratives and going back and forth, and Ethereum's kind of done the same thing too. I mean, Vitalik said, what was it, like 5 cents or something like that for a fee was blasphemy, and now. Yeah, so PulseChain, just like what Hex has done to Bitcoin, PulseChain's going to do that to Ethereum.
Agreed. And that's the other thing, and then I even classify in a sense those, obviously the second most successful if you use market cap, vanity metrics, that type of thing. But as far as functionality and stuff like that, Ethereum has, but it's become a promise coin at this point. I'm sorry, Vitalik, but I mean, you've been promising like this whole Ethereum 2.0 change for, how many years can you sing that song without anybody saying it's no longer a song, it's a freaking dirge? It's just like, put up or shut up. I mean, like the fact that Richard can accomplish this, assembling a team of devs and like put this stuff together and do everything, and not only everything, but do everything better in a sense, I think, with the fee burning and stuff, in such a short time frame. It's just, remarkable in my humble opinion.
And yeah, someone like Richard, he not saying that Vitalik sold out or anything like that, but Richard knows what he is going to design and his intentions, and like nothing's going to stop that. So when we talk about the immutability of Hex, some people ask like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, immutability means immutability, and that's definitely the cool thing about it, right? Is not only holding your own keys, but the fact that you can actually sleep at night knowing that, hey, you have a secure asset. I mean, when we talked about trading, it's crazy how bad of sleep you would get, because like you mentioned, you're worried about an indicator going off and things like that. But with all the money that's locked in Hex, like Hex has never had any rug pulls, never had any hacks or exploits. And that's the cool thing, right? Because it is a financial product, and if we want serious money and bigger players to take it seriously, then it needs
Sure.
to be something that they can put the money behind and not worry about it, getting hacked or drugged.
Why, the next, year 3, year 4 is going to be like the proving ground to the point of where people, who are skeptics year 1, year 2, it's going to be like, hey, because I think, was it Richard who said it initially or something like if you don't like hex at this point, you'll love it at $100 or you'll love it at $10. I mean, so if you're not interested in getting in under 50 cents, don't worry, you'll have your chance. You'll love it at $10. I mean, and that's, that's the reality of, how the math works. It's math, it's facts, Wales brings it home every day. Kareem, and people Kareem talks about, hey, we bring the receipts, because you can't, what was it? Kareem or Wales said, at first they were like mad at, I don't know, Richard, or they're mad at the coin or whatever. Now they're mad at the charts. You can be mad, bro, but I mean, the charts don't lie. I mean, it only provides an indicator of, future performance type thing. Far
it almost, yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No,
it almost looks like something that's photoshopped. I mean, I've heard people actually. You hear all the backlashes in the book, but like you mentioned, now it's the price chart, and Richard's joked about this in the past too. Of once things settle down and he attends these things, that he's going to have that comparison, right, where you've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the different altcoins, but then you've got Hex, which is just like this, and it's so true. I mean, the data doesn't lie. The statistics that we see of the average staking length going up doesn't lie, which is great because it goes to show you that it's being used as the product was intended. And the other thing I want to say about that too, that you mentioned about like not putting, say, like your rent money or stuff that might be like a higher risk that you actually need for like day-to-day life. It's not like it's not a sin to have like liquid hex, right? And something that Johnny Chaos has mentioned before, which that's another thing, the lawsuit that we can talk about. But anyways, is that if you're going to stake, you need to you should at least abide by what you said you're going to do. Otherwise, you're going to have penalties, just like with anything else in life, not doing what you committed to. But the amount of gains that we've had just in liquid alone is like over 7,000 whatever X at the all-time high. Like, you don't need to stake all of it and worry about end staking something early. Like if it's not something you can commit to, then just don't do it at all, versus staking it and then end staking it because now you needed the money.
Right. Yeah. And, and I mean, I already have a couple of good accounting. I got 2 good accountings that I've run that are just sitting there. I mean, waiting for the price appreciation. Don't need the taxable event. Obviously I'm not getting the insane gains for the APR, but that's okay. They're not super large stakes, so it's not like something I need to fully unstake and restake. But yeah, I mean, if you don't need the money, I mean, that's beautiful. I go to that tree and pick that apple anytime I want. I mean, if I need to, I mean, and that's a wonderful feeling. That's fantastic. Now you're talking about the lawsuit too. Let's get into that. Give me go ahead and talk, but give me just 1 minute here. I just got to do something real quick. Okay.
Yeah, no, totally. Yep. Do your thing. So yeah, for, to kind of set the precedent. So for people that aren't aware, the most popular coin market cap, or not coin market cap, but the most popular cryptocurrency market cap ranking website is, at least by data and whatnot, is coinmarketcap.com. But the disgusting thing about that is they actually provably manipulate the data. So they appear and they have a fallacy saying that they're trusted data. You can go to CoinMarketCap for the honest data, right? But then not only is Hex manually gate capped at rank 201, and is the market cap itself, manipulated, but it's the actual opposite of what cryptocurrency wasn't intended for. Like I mentioned, the cypherpunks or crypto in general, crypto is really a slow database. And so the point about crypto that was so important was getting rid of middlemen and not having to ask for permission to do things. But I say this to say that things like CoinMarketCap, they've been misrepresenting Hex since day one. And that's why we always talk about nomics.com, because that actual data and market cap can be verified on the blockchain, on like an etherscan.io. You can just type in Hex, you can see all of the public information. But one of the Hexicans, OG Hexicans, Johnny Chaos, he started the lawsuit with CoinMarketCap for misrepresenting the data, and the lawyers that we have working on the case are not chump change, right? They're very serious, and they have a very good track record of success, and they're not only in the States but international as well with some of their cases. So they're suing CoinMarketCap for pretty much lying about the representation of the market cap, and also screwing people over at the end of the day about the opportunity of Hex. Like, how many people were getting into crypto, went to coinmarketcap.com, didn't see that Hex was there, so they didn't look into it. But then now they're like, why am I hearing about Hex all of a sudden, and how is Hex top 3 market cap? That's because that company that's also owned by Binance, which is a major conflict of interest. It's disgusting to see, to be honest. So Hexicans are not only participating in a truth engine, which is what the staking and Hex product is, but we're also holding the other cryptocurrencies and the founders and things like that accountable, which is awesome.
Yeah, and and that's the biggest thing is, you think about what I was talking about earlier on small scale with the YouTube community group, and being part of them was the fact that you're robbing them of the opportunity to make their own decisions just because you're just blanket shitting on the coin without any research, just being a parrot, probably want a cracker. I mean, or being a maximalist, I'm not even a Hex maximalist, type thing. I'm like, I still own Bitcoin, In fact, I have a couple other coins in a wallet I can't even find the keys for, because I turned that into Hex in a heartbeat, and I got to go through like 7 different laptops to find the keys for it. It's there somewhere. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, CZ has a vested interest, in using CoinMarketCap in a sense to his advantage, and it's disgusting. Just best thing I can say. It's gross.
Yeah, so it's I agree. It is gross, and so the cool thing about Richard and about Hex and stuff like that is, like I mentioned, a lot of crypto is, especially on YouTube and like the influencers and whatnot, but they're hypocrites, right? They pretend on YouTube or on social media that things are a certain way, or that they have these opinions, but then when they turn off the camera, they realize it's all bullshit, right? They realize that they're deceiving people, that they're leading people to the meat grinder. I mean, people like Tone Bays that are, like you mentioned, selling trading courses and things like that. But the cool thing that I was going to say about Richard is he, I think it was after Peter McCormick, but he says the famous line, "Bring your heroes here to die." And so that's the cool thing, like we talk about, of not being afraid of people that have the altering opinions, is he's willing to have anyone that wants to come up to Richard and question Hex. But a lot of those people, they've been slaughtered, and their arguments have been disassembled. So I think it's cool that Richard is able to continue fighting those battles, because it really kind of shows the crypto space that, oh, this person that you were idolizing actually doesn't know diddly squat.
Yeah, and I mean, early on in the crypto stage, I had, obviously there were, the different thought leaders or people, my introduction to Bitcoin was Andreas Antonopoulos. And read his book, and the light switch went on. I mean, as far as cryptos go, and Bitcoin was the thing back then. I mean, Ethereum hadn't even launched any ERC-20s, I don't think, at that point, or if they had, it was very small. And I remember one of the guys at the shop, because I mentioned about when I bought Bitcoin, the date, the whole bit, and so I was the guy at the end of the morning meeting. We'd have like 4 or 5 minute morning meeting, and they're like, anybody got anything else? And I'm like, I'd raise my hand. I'm like, yeah, buy Bitcoin. Like, that was my deal. Well, come that, and Coinbase was my on-ramp, and it was in January. One of the guys came to me, shout out Ron to Nante. This guy Nante comes to me. And he's like, he bought like 55 Ethereum, I think, at like $7 or something like that. And I'm like, I told him, I said, I have no idea what Ethereum is. I know Bitcoin. I don't know Ethereum. That's how new it was, And it went from like $7 to $70 in like 3 months or something like that. And he was going back to the Philippines. He's like, I'm going to sell all my Ethereum, so I have money to spend on the trip. I'm like, bro, don't do that. I'm like, sell half. I mean, just hold on. He sold it all. And that's when, during the 2017, 2018 peak, went up, I think, like $1,400 per Ethereum. Could have bought a house in the Philippines. But yeah, I mean, these influencers and stuff, I mean, they're getting their users wrecked because they're unwilling to at least take a intelligent, logical, look at the possibility that, hey, look in the mirror. Could you be wrong? I mean,
well, and at the end of the day, like, who cares what they think, right? We know that. I mean, opinions are just that, opinions, right? Just like a nose, everyone's got one, stuff like that. No one really cares, but facts are facts, and that's why we say, like, facts don't care about your feelings. And anyways, what I wanted to get to that kind of corroborates what you're talking about and what we were talking about earlier is the lawsuit itself. And I'm not going to actually do the share screen on it just because it's Google Drive as opposed to other things. I don't want to accidentally dox myself if there's any personal info, but I can at least do the hover zoom screen share. So anyways, you can go to CCFX Studios. I'll link it in the chat in just a second, but this is at least a screenshot of a first couple lines. I mean, you can see page 1 of 44. It's legitimate, but so this is the lawsuit, or the company, the lawyers, I guess, that are doing the lawsuit and things like that. And so anyways, that's all verifiable for people to read yourself. And how cool is it that, like you mentioned, this isn't sponsored. Yep. Yeah, it's not sponsored by Richard Hart. All of what we're doing is just, hey, we've had a lot of gains, and we're using some of those gains to make even more gains, right? By holding people accountable and getting things where they should be and proper. And it's cool that Hex is the first thing.
Yeah, or allow people to have that opportunity to make the decision themselves. I mean, it's not like, hey, we want to be promoted, type thing. It's like, just, don't gatekeep. Don't, block your viewers or people that use your product for what they think is, representable information. And you're actually playing kind of games behind the scenes, a little shell switching type thing, the shell game, burying cryptos. And it's not just us, there's others. It has been mentioned in the past, but I mean, something that should be number 3 on the charts right now, approaching number 2 and listed down at 201 on the 3rd page. That's, everybody knows that's just not right. I mean,
well, you said something too that I think is actually very important, that's really suspicious, right? I'm a big fan of psychology and things like that, and there's projection that happens a lot when someone's pointing the finger and actually, like, they're kind of projecting their insecurity that they're doing what they're claiming the other person's doing. But you mentioned, hey, allow people to make their own decisions, right? Nomics.com shows the honest data, and how how scared of Hex are CZ and CoinMarketCap when they manually gatekeep not only Hex but these other cryptocurrencies from the actual ranking. I mean, it goes to show you that they're scared that people are going to find the better product, and that's really the sad part about all this, and why we're holding them accountable, is because how many people could have gotten the opportunity of investing in Hex earlier on, but they didn't have that information that was presented to them accurately. So that's going to be the cool thing, is kind of just showing the space, like I mentioned, what crypto was meant to be. And right now, with the influencers and all these other cryptos, it's really kind of a shame of what the original intentions of crypto and cypherpunk movements were supposed to be. So Richard's leading the example.
Yeah, old cypherpunk. So it's always the joke that I use. Just to let's throw out a little background, give you a little bit more to my story type thing. Hextech16 has been my handle since, I'll say, 1994. Back in the early internet days. And it actually came out of a book. There's two books, actually. It's a combination of two books. So there's a book called Hacker and the Ants. And the solution to the problem in Hacker and the Ants was hexadecimal 16. That was the whole thesis. Great book. Go back and read it. Cypherpunk stuff. Well, the other book was called Snow Crash. I think it's William Gibson, I think the author's name. But with Snow Crash, you tapped into the neural network using this product called a DEC, DECK. But so I smushed the two together, and it was Hextech16. So when Hex launched and stuff, I'm like, well, this is serendipitous. I'm like, I have to change my username. I don't have to be Hex anything. I'm Hextech16. So but that's just fun.
That's cool. I was kind of wondering the same thing. Because you wonder where people choose their usernames, and mine's always just been BallietBran. But yeah, that's cool to hear that you've had the same one since '94. I mean, what a cool thing, and like you mentioned, the serendipity between the hexadecimal and the hex contract itself. So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, fun stuff. Just good for storytelling and toasting marshmallows, so to speak. So, but hey, listen, let's kind of wrap this up. I got some things to attend to and stuff. I really appreciate your time and having me on. And like I said, we'll have to do a little promoting, give everybody an opportunity, a chance, people that interested. But Maddie said it was okay. I get that. Whoever wins, I'll get that information to Maddie. So the ticket's waiting there for him. But I do have that extra ticket that I'm happy to give away. I really appreciate your time and talking with you. It's always fun stuff. Just helping promote the product, and and I love saying that, the product, because it's not a project. It's complete. There's no changes. There's not going to be like a Hex 2.0, so to speak. It's the code is the code, the math is the math, and it's designed the way it's set to run.
Exactly. Pretty much Hex and Uniswap are the only products in crypto that I know. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Happy to have had you on. We're at like an hour and 38 minutes, so definitely a great time to wrap it up. And yeah, man, appreciate your time. We'll for everyone that's watching this, we'll figure out kind of the details for the announcement, like I was mentioning, for the giveaway that he's going to do. So how generous is that? But yeah, your Twitter is on the description below, and then it's also in this little banner ad as well. So yeah, with that being said, thanks for coming on, and like I said, stay tuned for everyone that we're going to do that giveaway relatively, probably within the next 2 weeks, something like that. So stay tuned for that.
And before you exit, people, if you haven't smashed the like button, help the algorithm out and give that thing a punch just before you go, because all it does is help get this content and this information out to somebody that may find it useful, and they want to do their own research and they stumble across it and they want to learn more. You can help them just by hitting the like button.
Exactly. Well, cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And yeah, have a good day.
All right.